Joanna here from Inspired by Stamping, and today I'm going to share with you this fun, quick watercolor pencil tutorial for these backgrounds on these gorgeous cards that I just created. Super fun, super simple, and you are going to love it. There is so many color combinations that you can do and create. Pinterest is just amazing, and you will find so many different varieties. So today I'm using the Big Thanks stamp set, and I'm also going to be using the Just For You stamp set. And here are my Faber-Castell watercolor pencils. I absolutely love these. I just bought them a couple weeks ago, so I haven't even used them really and played around with them, but I'm so excited to bring you guys lots more tutorials on creating and coloring with these fabulous watercolor pencils. So I'm going to grab some color combinations. Again, all the color combinations that I found are on Pinterest, and I've created a board on our Pinterest, and I'll leave a link on our blog. I'm also using a number 5 watercolor brush. This is just an old Anna Mason watercolor brush that I purchased while I was in Australia. You can use any kind of watercolor brush. Here it is. I'm using some Canson watercolor paper, some KRAFT paper, and just some regular cardstock. Anything will do, and I'll have all the dimensions on our blog. So here we go. Let's get started. What we're going to do is just draw circles, and it is so simple and so fun. You can draw any color combination that you would love to try out. And here I'm just going to be using this light peachy pink color and then the coordinating darker color that goes with it. I'll have the colors that I used again on the blog so you know exactly which color combinations to use for all 3 or 5 of my cards. Actually, I created 5. I'm also using this olive green color. I just loved the contrasting with that turquoise, and I'm using the light turquoise and a little bit of a darker shade too. And what we're going to do is just draw circles. As you can see, I'm going around and around in circles and kind of just scribbling. No consistency. You don't have to be perfect here. Just draw a cute little circle and away we go. So here I'm going to be sharing 2 cards with you today because I just had so much fun, and there's so many different color combination variations that you can find on Pinterest. I typically have used 5 different colors. I found that it just is a bit more fun, and you got more colors to play with. And plus the cardstock that we're using, this Canson watercolor paper, is 5 inches long. So it kind of gives you a bit more room to play with more colors. You could do 7 or 9 colors, and you could just have a slew of different colors if you would like. I typically stayed around with the 5s. So here I'm using pink and light violet, light turquoise, some olive green, and a little bit of the light orange color here. And after you're done coloring them, you could just color like a whole bunch of them on different cardstock. Now we're going to grab some water and our watercolor brush, and we're going to paint them. Now I'm just getting my watercolor brush wet, and I'm also dabbing it off a little bit to get that excess water off. And that's just because if you get the watercolor paper too wet, it's going to take a little bit longer for it to dry, and I want to make sure that you guys can see what I'm doing. Also, before you switch colors, make sure that you clean off that watercolor brush completely, or you're going to be coming up with some colors that you've never seen before. So it's always a good idea to make sure that you clean that brush. As you can see, I'm doing the ends first, and then I'm going to just hit the middle, and I'm leaving those 2 other ones without touching water on them because I kind of want these to dry completely before they start running into each other. So I'm just going to push that aside, and I'm also going to do the ends here. And that's just because I don't want it really to have a whole lot of bleeding into the colors. I want to kind of have the colors stay separate. And in no particular direction am I getting this watercolor, these pencils wet with my brush. I'm just kind of blending it all in, making sure that it's kind of even. You don't have to do it in any particular way. You can start from the top to the bottom or start in the middle and work your way out. It's just whatever works for you. It's just kind of just blending in that beautiful watercolor pencil and just mixing that with some water. So here you can see I just switched the cards, and I'm moving over because the green and the blue, it has dried just a little bit, so I'm not really too concerned about bleeding into each other. So those colors are going to stay separate, but it's still going to look pretty vibrant there. Now I'm just going to move over to this darker pink, and what you can see here is that that dark pink isn't as dark as I want to. So when that happens, you're going to have to let the whole thing dry, and then we're going to have to just hit it again, and I'm going to be doing that in a little bit. And again, it does not matter how you're blending. just go into little circles and just mix in that beautiful pencil with that water into that paper, and it really will turn out beautifully. And the brighter and richer that you want, you're going to have to add more layers of pencil color, and that's what's so beautiful. Watercolor pencils and any form of watercolors has a tendency to dry lighter than when they're wet. So you'll see the real true color after it dries, and sometimes, and since they do dry a lot lighter, you will have to add another layer of pencils on top of them, which you're going to see me do right now. So I'm just going to wait for this to dry and I'll be right back. Okay, so now this is kind of dry and I'm ready to go again. You can always, if you're going really, really quickly, feel free to hit it with a heat emboss gun. That will hurry up the process as well. Now I just grabbed this beautiful light pink, and I'm just going to hit the center of it because I like the way that the edges already look. And so you're going to see here that I'm only going to be adding more color to the center because I kind of wanted the dark center of each circle to be a bit darker. But you don't have to do that if you don't want to. You can color the entire thing all over again and just have one big beautiful vibrant watercolor blob. I guess I'm going to call it a blob. And here I'm just going over again with that light turquoise, and I really want to bring out some of that color because I'm going to be using a white embossing powder too. I really want that to show up and be a very, rich contrasting color to the white and the beautiful rainbow colors that we're using here. And so going over this beautiful globule of green one more time, and then we're just going to paint it again. So I'm just push that out of the way, and here we go again. We're just going to color one more time. And again, I'm just really working on that center and just kind of lightly going over around the corners, and you can see I'm just kind of going, making sure that there's no really hard edge lines either, and it's just nice and blended in, and it just looks just perfect. And here I'm just going to go over just a little bit of that hard line edge here. I had a really hard line edge right along here, so I just wanted to smooth that out, and I'm just going to go over and make sure that that's like that. And you could just keep fuddling and fixing, and if you see something different or you want to add more color, you just keep adding more colors and more layers. And as you can see, I'm just kind of blending it in. You can see kind of some rough edges there, and I didn't really like those. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to do the same thing here with that hard line edge, and then I'm going to color this beautiful olive green color, and it's just so pretty. It just looks so pretty and vibrant, and one of my favorite colors here with these pencils. Even though you can't tell right now, I'm really making sure that I'm not touching the edges so that there's no bleeding into each other as well. And I'm very slowly, this is going a little bit quicker than obvious normal speed. But in the normal speed, I'm really trying to make sure that I'm not touching those edges so there's no bleed line there either. So again, we're just kind of mixing things up and making sure it looks really nice and flat. And then that second layer, you can see how much darker that is. And even a third layer would really bring out that light pink and make it even bolder against the white embossing powder that I'm going to be using again. So here I am just going to go over this last one, making sure that I'm not touching the sides and everything's nice and blended, and we won't have any bleed lines going on here. And just really lightly going over it, making sure everything looks nice and blended here. And I really love that second layer of that pencil. It just looks so much more vibrant and really just pops out. So again, I'm just going to fix the screen again, and we're going to go over with that second. You can definitely see how much darker that is against that first layer. And I just really love that green. And just making sure everything looks okay here. If you see anything that you want to just kind of fix, or you have a hard line, just go over it with a wet watercolor brush, and that will just help blend it in a little bit even more. Okay, so I'm just going to wait for this to dry and touch it with the back of my hand to make sure it's completely dry before we begin with embossing. And this is my EK powder tool. I absolutely love this thing. It just helps with the embossing powder not sticking to the watercolor paper. And I'm going to grab my mini Misty here, and we're going to place that just perfectly in the corner there and put our things down. Let me just move that away and move the stuff to the side, and then we can get our embossing done. I'm going to be using our Big Thanks stamp set, and I'm just going to line this up as so and kind of just fiddle with it a little bit here, making sure that it's nice and straight. And I'm going to be using the thank you, and I'm going to be using the thank you for your kindness. It's one of my favorite sentiments. We're just going to center that up in the middle as so. And we're just going to press down and make sure that that's adhered to the top. Yep, I'm just making sure it's nice and lined up too. And so we're just going to grab the Versamark, and look what happened. I don't know if you can see that, but my sentiment came off and I stuck to the Versamark. So I had to fix that quickly, and then we're just going to push down. And I'm using some fine embossing powder here, some white fine embossing powder, and I will have all the links on my website and on my YouTube page here so you know exactly what I'm using. And I'm just using a little container here with a little spoon, and we're just going to put some on and then flick off the excess here, make sure that that's nice and off. And then we're just going to grab our heat gun here and just watch it pop out. And I'm going to do it a double embossing here because watercolor paper is a bit more bumpier, and I found that the Versamark does not stick all the way through in the little bumps, especially with the cold press watercolor paper. It's a bit more rough, so it's really kind of hard. And you can see it, but it just doesn't really pop. So we're going to make sure that that embossing powder is dry before we're going to use our Versamark again. And of course, I left the stamp sets exactly where they're at, so I just need to press down one more time and just do it right over there. You don't have to worry about anything with that Misty, the mini Misty, which is fabulous. And we're just going to do this one more time and flick off some excess here again, and we're going to hit it one more time, and you'll really watch it just really come to life with that second layer here of embossing powder. And it's just super fun, and I just really truly love it. Okay, so now we're just going to push that off to the side so it can dry nicely, and grab our mini Misty again. And we're going to switch stamp sets here, and I'm going to be using the Just For You stamp set here. And I'm going to be using the For You and Because You're Amazing. And we're just going to grab that here and line that up again. And the U, and then we're going to center that Because You're Amazing right underneath it. Yep, and I'll just grab that one. I wasn't sure which one I wanted to use, so I decided to do on this one. I just liked it. It was one I haven't used in a while. And again, I just want to make sure that that's nice and lined up, so I'm just going to switch it around. And sorry for you can see my head a little bit, but I noticed that it was just a little bit crooked here, and I always want to make sure that those are nice and aligned. So we're just going to flip it around again and grab that Versamark ink, and we're just going to get that nice and inky, and then press down firmly all the way around. And the one thing that I found here when I was doing the white embossing powder, as you're going to see, is that some of that white embossing powder ended up sticking from my finger because I was fiddling a little bit too much with it. And so what I usually do is I just grab a watercolor brush here, and I just kind of dab it off with that little bit right here in the corner. I just didn't like it. And I'm sorry if you can't see, but I'm just trying to brush off some of that white embossing powder that I saw that actually stuck on, and I don't want it there to show up on when I use my heat gun here. So that's just a really great tip, so that you can always, just use a little bit of a, watercolor brush there and just flick off some of that excess. So I'm just going to hit it again with my heat gun here, and it looks great, and I'm going to do it again twice, but this time after it's dried nicely, I'm going to hit it again with that powder tool, and that is just going to help with it just not sticking again for my second time that I hit with the embossing powder. So we're going to line that up one more time here, and we're just going to again hit it with the Versamark, and then just line it up, make sure it's perfect, and then press down, and then we'll just hit it one more time with that heat embossing gun with the white embossing powder over it, and it will go really quickly. And I just love that mini Misty. Back in the day, you used to have to reline it all the way up again, and then sometimes it wouldn't work, and there's no problems anymore with double embossing, and it's just so fun. What a lifesaver that thing is. And I'm just going to hit it here again, and you can really see how the For You just really comes to life, and it just looks fabulous. So now we're just going to put together the card. Okay, so now the fun part, we get to put our card together, and I have all these dimensions again on our blog, so you know exactly what to use and what to cut out, and it will make it so much quicker for you so that you can make a whole bunch of these cards at one time. And wouldn't they be a great teacher gift or any kind of gift for anybody? You make a bunch of them and tie a little ribbon around them. Oh, the possibilities are endless, and I really truly love these colors in these cards, so I'm going to be making a whole lot more of these. And here I'm just going to put the second card together, and just using some double-sided sticky tape, making sure that it's permanent, because you really need that extra permanent adhesive for watercolor paper. And again, I'm just going to line this up perfectly like so, and then there you have it, nice, quick, simple. And you could add some ribbon or some flowers, jazz it up with some sequins. You could do anything, but I left them nice and simple so you could see exactly how I made them. So if you have any questions or concerns, head on over to my website. I'm there to help and also answer any questions that you have. Thanks so much for stopping by. Take care.